How about we do this? Just begin by introducing both of you, because even though you are double EGOT, giantly talented couple, I feel like your names just don't get said enough. Can we just go for it and say Kristen and Bobby Lopez, everybody?
Hey,
Hi, Ginger Z.
Oh, we are so excited to do this because obviously Frozen is all about the music, and Frozen 2 is all about the music.
Well,
It is
I mean,
for us.
is there anything but music in this? Or?
It's an adventure. I mean, it is
Yes.
like, it's packed with so much wonderful storytelling, and the music is just a part of it. But and we're not even the only music writers of it. There's another composer that tells the story through score, and we're just the song, but we're just a part of it.
we absolutely love the way that everything is a collaboration on this. So it isn't really just about the music, because from the very, very beginning, we all sat around a table when we realized, like, okay, we're going to try and do this again. It was Jennifer Lee, the two of us, Chris Buck, Peter Delvecco, Mark Smith, the head of story, and Tom McDougall, who is the secret mastermind behind the music. He's the executive something
We never
of
know
all
his
Disney
title.
music. We never know his title. Anyway,
Big deal.
we all sat around a table and said, why do Frozen 2? And there's no reason to do it unless there's really something we need to say. And we kind of all dug deep along with Jennifer Lee. And there were questions. There were a lot of reasons to do it. And there were still things to sing about. Because the problem with a musical is you need to make sure your characters have emotions and questions that are so big that they can't speak it anymore. And it just has to come out in song. And we looked at the first one, and Anna had her happy ending. She had everything she wanted. The door was open. Her sister was there. She had the looking like a pretty hunky, cute boyfriend. Right. She has Olaf. They've got Sven. There's this happy family. But is Elsa really happy? Is
Right.
she really where she belongs?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the question that led us to say, let's explore that a little bit. Why does she have these powers? And is she really happy there just decorating with ice in Arendelle?
Right. We leave her off at maybe not the most natural place of closure. And so that's where this film takes us. And I love the idea that you said when we came together and sat around a table, was it really there that you said, okay, there has to be a Frozen 2? Or did Jennifer and Jen and Chris call you and say, we're going to do a Frozen 2. Are you up for it?
That's more how it went. Yeah. And of course we were up for it, but we had to weigh in too on what's this about? What do we have to say? You know, even though we aren't, Disney employees, we just kind of come in and write songs. We have to own it too. We have to feel it. It has to come from somewhere inside of us. And
What do you mean we just come in and write songs?
We just come in and write songs. It's simple.
The first 2 years, we talk about the story, all about the story, before we break ground
It's
on
true.
a single song.
So no lyric comes to you before that?
Well, if I'm really honest, Jennifer Lee is like a sister to us. We've been writing for Anna and Elsa since winter of 2011. Jen came on to work on Frozen the movie after we did, and since then, there has not been a year that we have not been writing for Anna and Elsa, because after the movie, we started writing the Broadway show together.
Right.
And so, and we've got kids that are the same age. She's got a daughter a little bit older than our two daughters. So we vacation together and we have dinners together. And it was always a question of what do we want to say with Frozen 2? And then it became official.
Right.
And then that's when the pressure was on.
Right. Well, even that. So, you say, of course, it's incredibly successful, but Disney Animation had never had a musical sequel. So this is the first. I mean,
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Yes.
We only found that out at D23.
Right.
that this was the first time they've ever done a feature animation of a sequel that's a musical.
yeah, they had like Cinderella 2 and Lion King 2, but those were done by a different division.
right.
And honestly, I don't think we ever really even saw those. And we don't know too many musical sequels as a culture. And I think this
There's
was
the
a big
Muppets.
challenge. Yeah, the Muppets.
And the Muppets
Right.
Take Manhattan.
Right.
And all the other Muppets.
And there's the ring cycle, Wagner's ring cycle.
But there aren't a lot. So that was added pressure, I imagine. I mean, it's not just because it's Frozen 2 and it had I would say, all of the world's children staring at you. And how do you even navigate that beginning? I know you said that you did have a voice for Anna and Elsa since 2011. Is there a lyric, though, that just came in right away that you thought this has to be their voice?
Well,
or what's the first thing you remember?
The first thing we wrote for it was they explained this story to us, and we kind of were talking about it for a year or so. And certain things started to stick. And one of the things was the mother, Queen Iduna, Anna and Elsa's mother, knew about the past. And
we were also writing for the Broadway musical.
That's
so
right.
there was a dialogue happening between the Broadway musical and
we kept being more and more interesting in her because she really is a blank slate in that first film. You don't know what she's thinking. She barely says anything. And it turns out she's got some secrets. And she sort of sings them a lullaby. This was our idea, I guess, that she has all this information that she wants to pass on but can't. So she does it through this lullaby. And that was the first song we wrote, right, hon?
Yes. I'm going to yes and that.
Who has the better memory? Does Bobby traditionally have the better memory?
That's how I recall it.
Okay. I think the first song that stuck in the movie might have been this. But it was that she had something to say to Elsa, but she couldn't say it outright.
Right.
We knew we were going to have the past coming back, and the way that she had to speak in code to Elsa, I think she always thought that she was going to be there when the past came to visit. Sadly, she's not. But through this song, she's left clues. She's left a little roadmap for the entire movie and for the girl's path.
And they can keep singing it and remembering it. So the lullaby seems like, okay, that makes sense. Once you decide it's a lullaby and it has the storyline behind it. But a lot of people are thrilled to know that Christoph has his moment, that Christoph has this song. And then you see it and it's kind of Richard Marx, kind of 80s ballad. Is that what you were going for? Is it like the...
Bobby and I both love 80s music.
Yeah.
It was a time that you could have huge emotions as a man and really sing about them. If you think about all of those power ballads that Bon Jovi sang and Chicago and Richard Marx, all of those people that they were allowed, I think it was before masculinity got even more toxic. There was a time that like men could wear tight pants and sing big songs.
Coming off the 70s, going into the 80s,
That's
right?
right.
That's kind of that fashion leading.
In the 70s, they sang in sweet, soft tones. And then in the 80s, they got loud and high.
Right.
And we wanted to write something for Jonathan Groff that really showed him off because we had
That's a good rhyme, honey.
Thank you. Thank you. The first film doesn't have a good song for Christoph, and because it couldn't really fit one.
Right.
His character was really kind of closed off at first, and then Anna is the one that brings him out. And this is the moment after he's proposed to her a number of times, and it never goes well because she's always focused on Elsa. And then in the middle of the woods, he gets a very big proposal together, and it's really quite funny. And she's not even there. She's left and without even saying goodbye. And he starts to question, oh my gosh, is this even happening? Does she even know I exist anymore? What's going on? What's going on with my life?
But here's the thing. Every song that we write, we find that we have to find our way into what does this mean? How is this in our experience? How does it resonate with what we have to say? And we do have a lot to say about Christoph and Anna's journey and the feeling of, even if you love someone and you're so connected, there are times that you get lost in the wood. You get into the metaphorical Enchanted Forest where you are not connecting and you're not on the same page. And that feeling, and I think it's very universal for any couple, that feeling of like the first thing of like, that was weird. And then another thing happens like, whoa, something's going on. And then if communication breaks down for whatever reason, in this case, it's the metaphor of an enchanted forest, then you really kind of go, uh-oh, what am I? Where am I? How do I talk to them? Can I talk to them? And that's sort of where Anna and Elsa are in this. I mean, all of them are.
Yeah, all of them.
I mean, Anna and Kristoff are in this movie is
well,
moving
he has
forward.
to grow, right? He's got to find his inner romantic and be able to express it to her. And it's not easy. It's not easy for men. Men sometimes get that squashed out of them, or they never see a model of it when they're growing up. They don't see, that love expressed in that way, even though they have it inside them. And I think
especially
this is his,
Kristoff, right?
I relate to that. I was an introvert. I was very, I was behind my piano. That was the way I kind of communicated. And I have been on a journey to be more romantic.
He was not a great communicator. And we've been married. We just celebrated our 16th anniversary.
That's what I was going to ask next. Okay, so 16 years.
16 years. And at the beginning, there would be times that I would, we'd be so connected and then it would just go away. And I'd be like, what just happened? And I knew he could find his way back, but now we're much better at labeling, like before he goes blank and the TV screen goes off, that I can go like, okay, come back to me. Where are you? Let's build the bridge. And I think that's what's going on with Kristoff.
And
All
music's a great way to do that, right? Music does help that beginning of the communication, I'm sure. Tell me you've written an 80s ballad for your wife that's just unreleased.
Yeah,
maybe that's for the 20th anniversary.
What a great idea.
we did have an 80s ballad we wrote for another project that got scrapped.
Which is kind of our song,
That I think is really about us.
It's a duet, and it's even higher than Lost in the Woods.
I mean, but speaking of in an animated film, there's always layers to what the different parts of the audience are going to understand. I feel like that one is very directed at this kind of demo and age group, right? I mean, it works for everybody, but I'm sure the kids couldn't possibly understand the pain in the eyes. I think of
my hope is that karaoke bars all over the world. There are men feeling their feelings and empowered to feel their feelings.
Right.
And maybe they'll go and they'll sing this song at karaoke. They'll let out those strong feelings, and then they'll pick up their cell phone and dial and say, "We need to talk."
Yeah.
That's my hope.
How would you say 16 years later, the process of you two working together, and I'm sure it wasn't from the very, I know that you met within it, but how has it changed? Like, how does the process? I know that there's very simple. You write lyrics, you write, melody, or.
Well, it's not. It's quite as simple as that. We definitely overlap a lot.
Sure.
I write lyrics. She writes music, and I'm usually behind the piano. But
yes, he can play the piano, and I can play the flute and the harmonica, and a mean tambourine
and the ukulele.
and the ukulele.
How has that process evolved?
Well, it's
Even
interesting.
since the first one, I imagine.
Bobby knew what he wanted to do when he was 11, and I was a kid who created musicals and put them on in my backyard and starred in them and directed them and designed them. And but the narrative that I downloaded, I think because there weren't many female creators, was that I was an actress. So I was lost in my own woods for a while, being a very mediocre musical theater actress in my 20s and writing lyrics backstage for fun. I would rewrite, and I would write these rhyming birthday cards. And only at 27 did I realize I'm a lyricist. Someone told me I was a lyricist, and then I said, "What do I do with that? What do I do?" And they were like, "There's this free workshop, and where you can go and learn." And that's where I met Bobby. So Bobby, who had known what he was going to do since he was 11, was way ahead of me at that moment, and I was just learning how to write musicals when we met. That said, by the time we started working together, he had already won a Tony. Right?
Yeah, but I had learned so much from you. I mean, she knew so much about story and so much about, the overview, the theme, and really communicating with an audience. And even though I had more technical knowledge, she really helped my first project along, helped me win the Tony.
And had more heart, I imagine, right?
For sure, absolutely. And she helped me get in touch with my own feelings. I mean, she's amazing. And I would say that even though, I kind of looked at her as the junior partner at first, and I didn't maybe believe in her as much as I probably should have. And it took Frozen 1, the success of that, to turn me around and make me realize, like, I am really lucky to be working with her. She is so fresh, so good. She has so much to say that I don't have inside me. That she has something to say that the world needs to hear. And
he's tearing up. He is. Oh, honey, that's very nice.
It is very nice. You don't need to write the ballad anymore, because I think you just did, my friend.
That's very, very nice. What's funny is that I did know that on some level Bobby trusted his gut a lot when we first started working with each other. And so what that meant was that sometimes we had to get into a big fight for me to be heard. We would get a little, it could get contentious.
For sure. Because
at
two
times.
people passionate about what they want.
Right.
And there is pressure within it. I mean, that's the difficult part is I love working with my husband. We've done it before, but once you're there, that's a whole other idea, and like what ends up coming out of it is usually beautiful, but there has to be a journey for you along the way.
Yeah. It's funny because we were a little competitive too. It was always like, who's going to get the good idea first so that it's their idea.
Right.
And that, I would say that was in the first 5 years of us working together. At the same time, we also were completely sleep deprived because we had very young children. How we held it together during those years, I don't know.
It was hard.
I think because when it started to work, it was so much fun.
Right.
So once we could get past the fight for the first idea, and get on the same page, that's when it really started becoming a really fun thing.
It gets into almost like an improv, and you're in the flow, and she's saying something, and it sparks something in me, and I say something, and I go to the piano and play this, and you almost don't even. It's because you're not paying attention that the song gets written. It's something that happens in a flow of energy. That
how does that flow? How do you even stop that flow? Like, how do you let someone take a song away from you when you probably want to tinker with it forever? Does it really come down to that, or do you know when a song is done?
Well, so in our process, there's the flow, and there's always a moment of things start to flow, and that might be that you get the verse and a chorus, and then you get hungry, and you're kind of like, let's stop for a second. Sometimes every song is different. Sometimes it'll really be we'll go into a trance for 24 hours, and that's all we'll be thinking about and all we'll be doing, while also how are we going to feed our children?
Yeah.
And we've got to put them down, but our brains are still going on that song.
And we move from a pad of paper and the piano at some point. Sometimes the song isn't finished yet. We move to the computer and we start making a demo. Sometimes we're only halfway through writing it by the time we start the demo.
And that's really fun because, I don't know if you're like me. In the 80s, we used to have a tape recorder, and that was I would have play dates, and we would just do radio shows and, sing fake commercials into the tape recorder. And that's basically what we get to do as grown-ups all the time is just make...
Those are my play dates, too.
Yeah.
That too.
What, out of this score, because there are so many great songs, what was the easiest or what came to you the quickest?
Well, Olaf's song was hard to find for a very long time. The middle of this movie, we knew the beginning, we knew the end. I think Jennifer Lee, who is a brilliant genius, had all huge ideas that we had talked about, and she was containing this giant 3-act epic scale movie in her head and allowing for all of the possibilities. That's what's so great and why her movies are fantastic, because her brain can allow for all those all those possibilities and hold them all. The rest of us were like, what?
Can we nail it down, please?
And yet we knew we needed an Olaf song in Act 2. And so we were under a lot of pressure. And there's this skating rink in Prospect Park where we live, near Park Slope. And I would go on Tuesday mornings when nobody was there, and I would just skate for an hour to kind of blow off steam. And I was ice skating around, and I was thinking about how, oh my gosh, none of this makes sense right now. It's all so scary, but I have to trust the process. I know in 3 months or 5 months or 9 months, this is all going to be okay. This is all going to make sense. And I went, and I ran up to the guy who rents the ice skates and I said, "Can I borrow a piece of paper and a pen? Do you have a piece of paper?" Because I only had my winter coat. And I started writing the lyric for "This Will All Make Sense When I'm Older." And I would skate a little bit and then I would go over to the side, to the railing and start and write a rhyme. And then I would skate a little bit more. And then I came back and I was like, "Here's Olaf's song." And then Bobby instantly sort of put it into a...
I put my piano on a sled.
And followed her around
exactly.
the ice. That is so Frozen of both of you. I know that the first score had your daughters in it, Katie and Annie. Are they back?
No, not in this one, but they did help us out. They recorded a lot of scratch dialogue for Little Anna and Little Elsa. There's a flashback scene in the beginning of the movie that has them, and Kristen was the scratch dialogue for Aduna, and so it was nice for a little while. I got to see like this very touching scene in the beginning with their voices. It was a sweet thing.
But they tell you if they like it or not.
Oh yeah.
Were there any songs of the ones that did not get entered in that they were the ones that said no way, this can't happen, or that you saw their faces? No.
I mean. Well, the ones that have gotten cut...
We try not to write stinkers.
So which one was horrible?
There are no songs that got cut that they were like, no. But the songs that are in there, you can rest assured that our children were the first people that heard them or heard even snippets of them. Even, we'd come home and be like, "What do you think of this?" And they're actually quite good at giving feedback now. They're like, "I really like this, but I think you need to tell us more about this."
Did they have to sign something? How do they keep these secrets? Like if I was a 10 or a 14-year-old, I'm going to tell you right now, everything would be to my friends. It would not have been safe.
I don't think they told anybody anything.
Really?
I don't think they were.
What good girls.
Yeah, I think they knew that it was important they not tell anything.
Yeah.
I think maybe we have told them that if they share some of these secrets and they get out, we could be sued for all we're worth.
There we go.
And
okay, maybe I would have been better then. Speaking of the film's gravity, because there is a lot when you mentioned it at the beginning, the pressure, and this is something that we spoke about when we were at D23, and I loved that you gave me so much information, by the way, that when the cast came in, they were like, "Where did you hear that?" And it was like, no, it's okay. We can talk about this. The Lopez's told me.
Oh, no, now we're in trouble.
No, it was wonderful. But we knew that there had to be something as epic as Let It Go. And so for this film, that is Into the Unknown.
Yeah. I mean, you go ahead, hon. You look like you wanted to answer that.
Well, it's so funny because I was dreaming that for the press junket, we're going to put a little jar on the piano and every reporter who comes in and says, "Is there a Let It Go?"
Right.
And we're going to say, "You have to put a nickel in the jar."
Sorry. Well, I asked it a different way. So.
No, you did it. You did such a good job. No, you did it so nicely. And the truth is, now that people are starting to see the movie, we are getting a lot of feedback that possibly there's not one, but two.
That's the other thing I would have added on. I had an addendum to this one.
But again,
it's not the same story.
It's never Let It Go. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and you don't want it to be Let It Go.
Exactly.
Let It Go was always a song that worked in the story that we were very proud of, and it was the reaction to it that turned it into this phenomenon that we didn't plan for and we have no control over, and we still have yet to see what these songs will do as far as audience reaction. Like that's something that they surprise us with. That's what we're waiting to find out. We'd love to have another hit, but what we really need to do is tell a story, and that's the joy of our process. That's why it takes so long. That's why we work so hard, and we would love to make something classic that lives forever. But you can't. We're not in charge of that.
It could have just as easily be Olaf's song. I mean, that truly, right? I mean, really, just whatever resonates then.
It's whatever resonates. Yeah. And that's an interesting place that we are right here as we're recording this podcast, is I was just telling a friend that I have this low thrum of anxiety, and I realized it is because this is the part where we let go. This is where we say, we did our best. Here you go, world.
Yeah,
Now,
here it is.
now the dance begins between what we did and how you receive it. And that really is the beauty and the terrifying thing about what we do, is that it's not done until you're in a collaboration with your audience, and you're in a collaboration with the little girls, the teenagers, the senior citizens, who hopefully will all see something about their lives up there and hear something in those songs.
When you saw it and heard Adina sing and heard, all of the characters bring it to life, did it take on anything different for you, each of the songs? Is there one that kind of you went, wow, that's even better than I anticipated? Or
I mean, Into the Unknown it's different from Let It Go in that it's the I Want song. She's the main protagonist of the story, and she is the one that's telling the audience basically. And she's not even singing to the audience. She's not singing to herself. She's singing to this other voice that she doesn't even know who it is or what it means, but she knows that it's calling her. And at first she's very, she's reacting against it. She's kind of resisting it. And then by the end of the song, she can't deny that a big part of her wants to follow it.
Yeah.
And that's what the rest of the movie is about, her journey to follow this and find this voice and figure out where it is that she needs to be. And so that's a positive message, and it's a positive song. It's joy. There's all this discovery of a part of herself that we don't know yet, and that was what was so exciting. And in Adina's voice, in the chorus of the song, that's where you hear it. That's where you hear this incredible passion that's being unleashed in the moment.
Is it okay if I interrupt and just talk
please.
about Adina for a second?
yes,
Because
please.
Adina, to work with Adina, we always talk about her as like working with a Stradivarius. You're given this instrument unlike any in the world. And we've learned that sometimes Adina's superpower is how vulnerable she can be down low when you have her sort of very intimate with the mic, singing down low, kind of things that she's never spoken to herself before. And then as you bring her higher, you find this power, which is really what Elsa is all about. Adina really is Elsa in a lot of ways, because she has this superpower and this ability to do things that you're like, no one can do that. But she also, this song, Into the Unknown, is about intuition and following your intuition, even when you know it may not be what everyone wants for you. And Adina is the most intuitive performer in the world, too. Adina, there's times when we'll get into the studio with her and we just realize, you know what? We're just going to let her follow her intuition. And she can maybe hit a moment where she's doubting herself. And then you can watch her kind of go, can I have a second? And she goes into the stairwell and she does she'll start doing some vocalizations, and you can just tell that she's centering herself. And then she'll come in and she will blow us all away. And
so you don't know what happens in that stairwell exactly.
I know that she's I know that she's able to take a second and ground herself in her own, trust her own power, and which is really, I think, what this whole movie is about, is Elsa learning to listen to her own power. And I think that's what Adina does in the studio every time we have the great privilege to work with her.
If, and I'm thinking about the headlines that I saw over and over when Let It Go, you were always quoted as saying that's watching The Bachelorette and drinking a glass of wine. I imagine that's not what she was feeling in that moment, but maybe. For Into the Unknown, do you have a similar something that you attribute to the title?
I think everyone has those moments that life has gotten too easy, that you wake up and you're like, meh. And that's usually the moment that a little window opens that's calling you to something else. And again, I'll look at my 20s, at the moment that I was very, leading a life as an actress in New York. It wasn't great. I was temping a lot. I was playing a lot of nuns in New Hampshire. And I knew something needed to change. But in order to make that change, I had to really take a risk. And I had to do something different than what I had been doing. I also had to leave the relationship I was in with another actor, and there was like the first baby step I took toward writing a song for a cabaret I was doing, and then there was the baby step of applying to this workshop, and getting in. And then there was the baby step of like writing that first song. And then there was the baby step of being brave enough to perform that first song. And that was the moment that I felt like, boom, the skies have just parted and I've just figured out where I align, where my purpose in life and my love of theater and storytelling has found its place. And it's so interesting because 3 weeks later, I met my husband.
The window was open.
The window was open.
And he came in the
So is
window,
that
which
door.
sounds a little creepier than I'm sure that I meant that to come out. But I know that Oscar consideration, sorry, but you have to talk about it because y'all are Oscar winners. Congratulations. Years later on that, by the way. There's no way to write or know, like it's kind of the same as the audience, but it's not because it's, not just the audience driving which song they like or not. But do you think about that? Is that in your process at all?
That is not the most helpful way to go about it.
Yeah, I imagine you can't do that. It's like saying I'm going to be a New York Times bestselling author, and here's why. But at the same time, you want to manifest great things, and you want the film to do well. And
getting to go to the Oscars is an amazing party, and it's an amazing thing to be a part of. And now we're both Academy members and take that responsibility very seriously, especially because it can give opportunities to people who haven't, like voices that haven't been represented. It's an exciting time to be an Academy member. That said, that is like that's the icing on the cake. But when you're writing a song, you're just thinking like, how do I buy flour? Where does sugar come from? And that's way, way basic foundation of the cake.
That makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't think that, but at the same time, it would be hard to not feel that way. And that's part of, I'm sure, you already had that beautiful cake and the cake has been baked, but there's like that, the dough you still want it to be even better than the last one and everybody to taste it and say, yes.
Yeah, it definitely. But what we have learned, because we've been songwriters now, I've been a songwriter for 20 years. Bobby's been a songwriter for 37 of them or something, that every time you write a song, you have to go to beginner's mind. And there's just no way around it. Just because you wrote one really great song, you don't take that with you. You don't take that other song into the next song. What you do take with you is learning, how have I really stopped myself in the past? One way to stop yourself is to let your ego feed what you're going to say. That's a good way to write.
About awards and stuff.
That's a good way to really freeze yourself up, and also not write a song that's going to resonate with anybody. The best way to start a song is to play. And for me, that's what's so great about where we are now in our collaboration. And we just have a safety now, and sometimes I'll get a spark of inspiration, and I get to run with it and just be like, I'm going into my room and I'm writing on the page, and here it is. And sometimes Bobby will be in his boxers, like with "Remember Me." he was in his boxers, and we had a piano in our kitchen at the time, and he was just playing this beautiful melody, and "Remember Me" came out, and I was like, give me that on my iPhone. And I took it on the train and I wrote the lyric to it. Like sometimes you just got to wait and be open. And it's usually in the moments that you're in the shower, on the toilet, or in your boxers.
Yeah. In your boxers.
In my boxers. Sorry about that. Sorry to put that in anybody's mind.
I think that's what we like to hear, though. We like when someone's listening to this and they're such a huge fan of both of y'all and your work, they want to know those private moments. I mean, we want to be let in because I don't want to put too much on you, but you're in a way geniuses. I mean, this is not something everybody can sit down and do every day. as open as I could be, I'll tell you right now, I played 10 years of piano. My mom always said I was technical and my brother was talented. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
That may be true. It may be true that not
Right.
everybody can do it, but I think a lot more people could do it if they believed that they could.
Really?
I do think so.
And
I
that's
think
what you
that
would tell an aspiring
absolutely.
musician.
Anyone that doesn't see themselves represented doing it, if they believed, if they saw it in reach, I think there's many geniuses out there that never get to put pen to paper because they think, geez, that's something that other people do, not me, not my kind of person.
What's also interesting, I just wrote this out for, I wrote a thing to young writers that's going to be in some calendar. And I remember there was a moment with that first song that I wrote a song and it actually resonated. Like, people laughed and they cheered. And the subsequent songs, I kept realizing, oh my gosh, this thing that I've been doing with my brain my whole life is not something everyone else does.
No.
I have a voice, and I think a lot of people don't realize that they're in their own brains, having their own thoughts with their own dictionary and their own rhythms and their own melodies and their own experiences, and that is a whole world that no one else has ever seen. And when you go to write something, whether you're an author or a composer or a painter, you're taking that amazing world and just pouring a tiny little bit of that fresh voice into your art and letting the world see that. And it's really that simple, and it's really enough. Take the time, pour it out, and it's there. It's fresh. That's it.
And would you say, I mean, I always go back to thinking my piano teacher telling me practice makes perfect. I guess knowing, I assume, that perfection's not it. Is there something within these songs that you look back and you say, maybe now I would have changed something? Or
There is one line.
Tell me.
There's one line that I don't like in Some Things Never Change. But I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I don't even know.
Well, that's for others to guess, I
Yeah,
guess.
I guess that's
But it's good to know that you still have those feelings, even at your level, I guess is my point. Is
you
that
always see the flaws
Sure.
in what you do, and I've been trying to work on sort of enjoying. You have to sort of let go of those things. You know, your time is done. You don't get to redo anything. And I think the cool thing is Disney Animation has put so much beauty into this that we had never envisioned.
Yes.
All the artists,
Can't imagine.
the way it's rendered, the way the shots are, it's just gorgeous. The characters, everything goes to 11. I mean, it's incredible. And what they add to what we do and vice versa, I think that's where the magic is.
I think this time around, we were able, because it wasn't quite so new, the first time around, it was all so new, and it was like being shot out of a cannon and figuring out what to do as we went. This time around, I'm able to really take in and be so grateful for what the artists bring to this. Like, we get a lot of credit for these songs, but the truth is, these songs are, something we scratch on a page, and then we put them into a demo, and then there are like 8,000 people who make it what it is, down to the people who help us comp together the performances. That's Andrew Page, down to the orchestrator, Dave Metzger, who is like the secret sauce of all Frozen music, who just makes it so epic, down to the first person who does the storyboards for, Into the Unknown and decides, here's what's happening. When she sings that, this is coming out of her hands, and this is where she is, and this is where the castle is, and this is where the water is.
So none of that is you.
None of that is
telling
us.
No.
at
No.
all.
We give them suggestions.
You give
and
them
then
suggestions.
I
they
give
run.
them stage
Okay.
directions. They usually ignore them because they come up with something
better. And that's why their job is their job, right?
Right.
That's
And they plus it. And then we go to the screening like we're going to tonight, and like we got to go to in July and see it half done, and just our jaws drop with the way that they have plussed what we wrote and made it so much more alive and so much more universal and so beautiful. And that's when we just go, oh my God, I'm so grateful that we are given the opportunity to have this entire studio of artistic geniuses bring our songs to life. And that's all we're feeling right now. It's a ton of gratitude.
I imagine it has to. You have to, and it still has to be surreal. This many years later, you still had this opportunity to tell these two girl stories and the other people within the storyline, but it will, no matter what, change people's lives. I mean, music changes people's lives. Do you think about that a lot? See, even if you're not thinking about an Oscar, you have to know.
That's been the most amazing surprise of working with Disney and the legacy of Frozen has been the letters we get, the people we visit. Every time we go to a hospital, I mean, there's always when we took our daughter to sort of an epilepsy wing. We were worried that she was having seizures, and she spent a couple of nights, and we got to see these music therapists in the playroom of the children's ward. And they didn't know we were there, but they just started. They were like, "Who wants to hear a song?" And someone said, "Let It Go." And all of a sudden, they were singing "Let It Go."
Oh my goodness!
And then we walked up and introduced ourselves to the teacher, and she said, "You don't know what you've done. This has given so much to so many kids that really need emotional support, and it helps them fight through these challenges that they have." So
we've also had people come up to us on the street and go, "You don't know what you've done."
Yeah, that too.
I've been listening to Let It Go in my minivan 20 times a day for 7 years. We do get that side too.
Sure. But the fan interaction has to be, once they know, like you said, it can go all different ways. Is there one other that sticks out to you?
Well, I guess I turn my sights to a song that we have that's at the very end of this movie.
Next Right Thing.
It's called "Do the Next Right Thing," and I'll just share the story. I've cleared it with the director that I can tell this, but when we were doing the press junket for Frozen 1, Chris Buck, the director on this film, lost his son and had to fly home tragically. It was awful. And then when we were a couple years later, Andrew Page, who is the person who's the engineer who puts together all the performances and is our partner on everything we do for Disney, he also lost his daughter, Esme, tragically. And so 2 of our core team had the unimaginable nightmare happen to them. And we really took it hard and meditated on the strength that they show every single day. Like, how do you wake up the next day after something like that happens? And I think the first song, that's what I was going to say. I thought the first song we wrote for Frozen 2 was actually that, this song, "Do the Next Right Thing," because we realized that Anna would be the perfect person to show us, what do you do when you've lost everything? How do you, optimism is a choice, and it's not a choice to like, I'm going to be happy forever. It's a choice to, okay, I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to sit up, and I'm going to put one foot down, and it's going to kill me, and then I'm going to put another foot down, and it's going to kill me, and maybe I will take those steps to the kitchen and make myself a sandwich so I can make it through the next hour. And I think we're sort of breaking down grief into those tiny choices with "Do the Next Right Thing." And when I wrote that song, I definitely thought about the dark moments I've had in my own life, and how did I get through them. And I'm hoping that this song can act, if anyone's going through grief or feeling that they just can't get out of bed, that this song can be like a little prayer for them and shine a little light.
I think so too. It sounds like I imagine their response when you told them this, that it was kind of born of this idea.
Well,
for Christopher.
when we did send him the song, because we send the songs first to Tom McDougall, who's the head of music, and then he says, "Go ahead and send it," or sometimes he says, "Go back,
not yet."
Exactly.
In this case, we wrote it, we did the demo, and we took a lot of care with the demo to try and literally feel the breath that you would feel if you were this pulled down by the gravity of grief. And then we sent it to Chris and Jen, and we got the most beautiful letter back from Chris and Shelley, because Shelley is his wife. And I won't quote it for verbatim, but she did say, thank you for this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Ryder, their son, thanks you for this and for speaking to that experience and allowing us to put that in Frozen 2.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I can't wait to be able to hear you all sing to me. So I feel like this is just a great time to ask if you all could play and sing a little.
Sure.
Inside Frozen 2. A behind-the-scenes look at the making of Frozen 2 from ABC and Disney. Listen now for free on your favorite podcast app. And see Frozen 2 in theaters November 22nd and Frozen on Disney+.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.